Okay, so I taught you something, and neither of us even remembered that I had taught you something early in your life. Is that right? This podcast is brought to you by DeadCat. If you guys are not aware, DeadCat is what powers this podcast. We have studio downtown. We're on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. You can find us all over the place. Come check us out, hang out with us. We'd love to hear from you guys.
Yeah, you taught me swim lessons.
What? So that had to be a long time ago because I haven't taught swim lessons in years.
Yeah.
And actually, your parents were the ones that remembered, right?
Yeah, I have no recollection of this at all.
Do you remember how old you were when that happened?
No clue.
No clue. That's interesting. Sorry, I just thought that was an interesting fact to start on. Zachary or Zach?
I always tell people whichever, but I'm
Okay.
starting to get more into Zachary, I think. Because when you tell people Zach, they like to, like on formal documents, write that.
Yeah.
So I think Zachary.
Zachary de la Garza?
Yes.
Did I say that all right?
Yes.
Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, so where were you born?
I was actually born in Lubbock, Texas. But I've been here since, like a few months after I was born, my parents moved to Paris.
Okay. Let's move your mic just a little bit closer. You're a little low. There we go. So mostly Paris, Texas.
Yeah,
What school did you go to?
Paris High.
So tell me a little bit about like your experience in school at Paris High, or through most of the grades in school. It doesn't have to be a high school experience.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say it was good. I was very into grades.
You were?
Yeah, I was a valedictorian, so
Awesome.
that was a large part of my schooling career. Yeah, it was kind of stressful, to be honest.
So it was stressful?
Yeah.
Was it mostly the grades, or was it just life as a high schooler or as a school
But I
person?
think it's, like, just very uptight and very, like, focused on that. And then I think it took, like, getting that achievement and then moving away from it to kind of figure out more, I guess.
So was that your goal, or did you have other activities or releases like sports or anything like that?
Yeah, I did a lot of things. So I was doing that. I did band
Okay.
all throughout. I played alto saxophone, was drum major. My freshman year, I did football.
Okay.
I was a middle linebacker, calling plays. I played baseball, pitching, outfield, catching. Did that until I tore my ACL, but I did that in football. I did a little bit of swim senior year. So I kind of was
All
all
over the
around.
map.
Yeah.
Was there a favorite of those?
It was probably when I started to stop doing sports.
That was your favorite?
Yeah, because I wasn't really into like the blue tube scene, which
Yep.
I kind of wish I had done that to get a little bit more video production experience.
Yeah.
But my senior year, I did theater. I was doing lights
Okay.
for a one-act play, 39 Steps.
Okay.
And then I did yearbook, which was fun, like learning layout and getting to take photos. And
So tell me a little bit, because my experience with yearbook, obviously a long time ago, was probably different. Tell me how yearbook worked for you.
Basically, we started off the year doing sponsorships, and
Okay.
so we just ran around like during school hours to all these different businesses, and it's a little bit of a competition. My group ended up winning. Yeah. But yeah, we did that, and then we all just got kind of assigned to a spread or two. I did one on Polaroids and took a bunch of photos of different teachers and students. Then I think I did the cross-country spread as well.
Okay. So did they teach you like Photoshop and like, did they go into those details, or is it mostly, what is that all like?
Yeah, we weren't doing Photoshop, but it was like a fake version of InDesign.
Oh, okay.
I don't remember what the name of it was, but I mean, InDesign adjacent, basically.
Okay. Interesting. Okay, so valedictorian.
Yeah.
What does it take to be valedictorian? Like, what's the prerequisites? I'm I've never been that.
Yeah. I always just told people I did the work.
You just did the work? You
Yeah.
put a lot of work in?
Yeah, but I mean, it was also, yeah. You're just spending a lot of time focusing on that. And
So is it having the best grade, or is there more to it? Like having the best overall, like GPA or whatever?
yeah.
That's all it is to be valedictorian?
Yeah.
So they don't take in consideration like sports or volunteer time or anything extra like that?
Mm-mm.
Interesting.
It's just based on your classes that you took, and some are weighted higher than others. But
Okay. And did you have to think about that early in school, or did you, like, as a freshman, did you start thinking about being valedictorian, or did it kind of come later on?
whenever like results first started to come out, I was like fifth-ish.
Mm-hmm.
But I had been told that before like high school that I was like number one, like going into high school.
Okay.
And so that's what kind of prompted me wanting to work on that. And then also, my parents are also actually, my mom was valedictorian and my dad was salutatorian.
Okay.
So that also, all those ideas kind of came together.
Came together? That's awesome. So earlier you talked about doing Polaroid pictures.
Yeah.
I know from hanging out with you that that's something that you're kind of passionate about. When did you first fall in love with that kind of medium?
Yeah, so I think it was around 2016.
Okay.
My grandmother had died that year, and we got all of her stuff, and I was going through it, and I found this old Polaroid camera, and it didn't work, which that I think was the starting of it, because I was intrigued by the camera, didn't work. So then I started going around to antique stores just around like downtown, and I found another one. It also didn't work. And then eventually I found one that did. And then, yeah, I just kept taking photos, and I have photos like from a lot of major high school events into college, and still taking them today.
That's awesome. And now you have, how many cameras do you have that are not new, like from older cameras? A lot. I can tell by the way you're looking.
Yeah, a good amount.
A good amount. How many, do you know how many you have that work?
The majority of them work. At this point, like I have, like.
So you don't collect old ones and then use parts from those to fix. No. So
I did recently though. I found a camera at a store, not downtown, but the camera was just disgusting. The glass inside was super dirty and everything, and so I actually took it apart and cleaned out all the elements, and save for a little bit of mold on the glass. It's practically good as new. Yeah.
Interesting. And you know where to get the film and all of that, but you were telling me, because we were talking the other day, that you're wanting to stop and learn how to actually develop the film, right? Like in a darkroom. Yeah. And you haven't done any of that yet?
No, but I've been watching a lot of YouTube videos on it.
So you're into it?
Yeah, it's very complicated just because there's so many different like chemicals that you could use, and
there's like temperatures that you have to keep the solution at, and there's a lot to it.
Yeah, there's a lot of practices to it. That's the next step. I'm at the point where I'm scanning my own film, but developing would really save on costs. And yeah, because I'm starting to shoot a lot more, I'd love to start developing.
Now, when you shoot, do you just in the day and think, hey, that's a cool thing, I want to shoot that? Or do you go out and like hunt for things to shoot?
It depends. So like on Instagram, which is where I kind of started putting my photos, I did this thing because like the grid is so important that I would do photos in threes. Okay. So then I started thinking in terms of like, if I take a photo of you, then we got to take a photo maybe of other employees in the office or just around the office, and then make a triptych of 3 photos about DeadCat. Okay. So that's kind of how I started thinking about film. Now at this point, it's just like, yeah, I do have to kind of stop and think if like it's a good photo or not before I take it, just because you have so many exposures. Exactly. And it costs money, and it's a very different process.
Like where with us, I mean, we have an SD card, and I can take 1,000+ photos, and then only 5 of them are good. They're good, but yeah. With what you do, you only have a limited number of photos, and sometimes, if I'm understanding this right, you have to take a picture to find out if your exposure is even right, and then you have to take a picture a second time to get the good shot.
Yeah, that's mainly on a Polaroid, because Polaroid is a lot more inconsistent. You don't get like actual camera settings like you do on a film camera.
Right.
So yeah, there are a lot of photos where like they won't turn out and then I'll have to do another. But then with film, you can kind of use like a light meter, or some of the cameras come with an internal light meter.
I actually have an old camera at the house that has a light meter with it.
Yeah.
I don't think it works though.
I can check it out.
I might bring it up here sometime. I have to find it.
Yeah.
Might be in a kid's toy box because my youngest loves to grab things off of shelves and run around with it. Kids. Okay, so after as a senior in high school, did you know what you wanted to do?
Yes, but I didn't know if I wanted to go through with it. So I had always liked film, and I ended up going to college for film.
Okay.
It just felt very impractical, and a lot of people telling you like that's a stupid decision, but like especially learning now that like pretty much every company needs some video in some way, shape, or form.
Mm-hmm.
Like no matter what, like you need a way to promote your business or tell employees like how you need to do something, and a video is a good way to do that. And most people don't really know those skills or take them for granted.
I know a little bit about that.
Yeah.
So you went to school. Where'd you go to school?
UT Austin.
UT Austin. And what was the exact degree you got?
Radio, television, and film. They do a little bit of a history of radio and TV, like in the first class you take.
Okay. So, go into that a little bit for me. Like, what was that like, going to classes for film? Do you feel like you learned a lot about the actual like filmmaking, or was it more history based, or like go into that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, coming from like a school background, I really did like learning film history, and
Gotcha.
I had already kind of started doing that. There's a brand of DVDs called the Criterion Collection, which will like restore old films and highlight significant film history. And so I had started watching some of those before going to college, and a lot of the films that would be like asked of you to watch would actually be Criterion films. So I really like that side of it because I think it's important to understand like where film started and like intertextuality between different films. And then I knew some things. I would make goofy videos with my friends before college. But I would say like it's a lot of like, I think you could almost say like it wasn't a help, but that would be a lie, because it's really like it's the experience of being thrown in and having to make something and having to make it with a small group of people. And like one of the first projects we did, you have to do pretty much everything yourself.
Right.
And so that's a big wake up call, and you learn a lot very quickly because you just have to figure it out.
So having a little bit of experience prior to going to school did help you a little bit going into school, or did not help you?
I would say it did.
Okay.
I did not have as much experience as maybe I thought I did. Like that's the thing, is that like now at this point it almost feels like such a second nature. Like learning things like ISO, aperture, like all of that stuff. Like I had a grasp on it, but I didn't really know it well.
Do you feel like kids, other students, I guess they're not all kids, but other students in your classes were ahead of you or behind you in knowledge of what they came in with?
There were definitely some people that were way ahead and some that were way behind. I would
Gotcha.
say I was...
Middle ground?
Yeah, in the middle. Like I knew some stuff, I didn't know a whole lot. But the cool thing was the collaboration. So you would meet people who were like-minded and would want to work on sets with you, or you would meet someone on a set and you'd see him again, and it was just a very collaborative environment.
Did y'all make short films? Like what all kind of projects did y'all get to work on?
Yeah, mainly short films. I did work on I worked on an extracurricular for the radio station, KVRX on campus, and we did a show called Local Live, where local bands would come in, and then college students would just film them, and there'd be someone in the booth getting the audio, and then we'd put together a little edit for YouTube. And I did that from 2018 to off and on once the pandemic hit, 'cause it was kind of hard to get in the studio. So we started like doing backyard locations and doing all this random stuff. But yeah, so I did a lot of that, and then short films for class.
What do you have a favorite short film that you've either done or worked on?
Yeah, I'd probably say the one I finished this time last year, which was called Claude.
What was it about?
It was about a TV mascot, kind of like Barney, who quit his TV show because he wanted to become a serious actor. And the mother of a superfan child kidnaps him and forces him to continue the show just for the daughter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That seems realistic.
Yeah.
All of my kids have had favorite. None of them were Barney, but have had favorite child mascot type characters that they loved. That's funny.
Yeah.
Blippi. Have you ever heard of Blippi?
I've not.
So my youngest, he's kind of phased out of that by now, but he loved this guy, and he wasn't actually in a mascot. He just kind of had an outfit that he wore, and he was obsessed with Blippi. We have Blippi dolls, Blippi socks, Blippi PJs. We were all about Blippi.
Yeah.
And what's funny about this is he did actually do. He got a new guy to come in, and I don't know if he's just so busy being Blippi that he wanted to double his content, but he had a new guy come in and be Blippi. In my opinion, does not look anything like the original Blippi, and I feel like he's a 3-year-old, and I feel like he knew like that's not Blippi. I want Blippi.
Yeah.
And they were just, I mean, they were kind of similar, but like I was like, y'all trying to pass off a fake Blippi.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, that's a side story.
Yeah. It was also the film idea was based off of Misery.
Yeah, I love
Stephen
that.
King.
Yeah, I
and
love
then
that.
This movie called Brigsby Bear, if you've heard of it.
I haven't heard of that one.
Okay, I would check it out because it's Kyle Mooney.
Okay, yeah.
And a lot of the people like that work at SNL. Mark Hamill's actually.
Yeah.
In it. It's about this guy who was basically like. I kind of have to spoil it a bit, but it features another mascot character named Brigsby Bear.
Okay.
And I hadn't actually heard of Misery. I didn't really know of it at the time of writing it, and so. As we were working on it, though, I read the book and kind of incorporated some elements. But
that's awesome.
Yeah,
that's a good book. So, when did you graduate?
I graduated high school in 2018, and then college in May of 2021.
Okay, awesome. When you graduated, like, what did you have a direction that you wanted to go in? Were you wanting to like go into film, or what were you thinking there?
Yeah, I think the goal is always write and direct, but that's also a million other people's answer to that question. And I've also found that it seems to be that you don't necessarily want to say that outright. Like you kind of want to do something else until someone trusts you to get to that point.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, that would be the end goal. But right now I'm just kind of doing whatever I can get my hands on.
Have you written, because you want to write and direct, right?
Yeah.
Have you written anything?
I wrote that screenplay, and then I wrote another film back in like 2019. I have a bunch of ideas for like longer feature films. One has about like 40 pages written, but that's about it.
So do you feel like in day-to-day life you either have something happen, you're like, oh, that would make a good story, and then you kind of jot down like a bullet point idea of like what it could possibly look like to come back and write it later?
Yeah, I used to do that. I used to have a whole like notes folder full of that, but I haven't really been doing it as much at this point. Like I need to start writing.
Yes.
But it's hard. It's a hard process.
I don't like writing, but I love the idea, like process of coming up with a story, and I've done a couple of short films myself, but my favorite part of doing the short film is like the thinking of the idea. How do we make it, like how do we tell the story, how do we make it funny? I like to make funny ones, and that kind of process is my favorite part. But
the dream stage.
Yeah. I probably have a million ideas that are still in the dream phase. Like I did the same thing where I have a notes, and then I would just jot down basically like the title of what I think that would be called, and then in my brain I'm like, I'm gonna sit down one day and we're gonna like one of these are gonna like come true, or we're gonna say, well, let's make a short film this year, and I'm gonna pull out my Rolodex of ideas and be like, well, I've got this really good idea. I actually have. I'm not gonna tell it, but I have a really good idea for a comedy, like mini series, kind of mini web series that I would really want to do. If I had a clone or two, I would definitely do it because it would take time. But I've been sitting on it for like 10 years. I even at one point wrote like dossiers for each character so that you knew backstory on each character. Like I really wanted to do it. I'll tell you about it sometime, but not here.
Yeah.
Okay, so so what happened after college?
So I went to this program called UTLA,
Okay.
which is UT in LA.
Okay.
I interned with Samuel Goldwyn Films and Propagate Content, both as like a development intern. So I was reading scripts and basically giving the green light if like I would want to see it made or not.
Okay. So how many scripts did you read?
50 or 60.
And how were they, like feature length, or were they just?
Yeah, and so you would be expected to read like 120. Well, I guess the max, like 120 page script, and then you had to give a book report where you like wrote down everything that happened and then give big critiques on the story, and then you had to turn all that in by the end of the day, and you get paid nothing.
Whoa. Okay, let me digest this just a little bit. So you'd come in, and in one day you'd
It was just remote because.
Oh, it was remote, so they
Yeah.
would send it to you.
Yep.
And they gave you 24 hours?
I mean, by around 5-ish, but it got to a point where like I would get them in by like 8.
So you would read a whole script of a feature-length film.
Yeah.
And then and on top of that, you had to write an essay about it. Did you enjoy this?
No.
I was going to say, 'cause I would not enjoy this.
But I recognized the value of it.
Yeah.
It got to where like I could read like 10 pages of a script and be like, trash. But
Okay.
then the issue is, because you're an intern, you don't have the power to just say, throw it away. You
Gotcha.
still have to read it and give it the time of day, which that was the worst part, because you started to really become a good judge of what would be popular, what would make sense. And then at one of my jobs, like they did a good job of telling you like their thoughts on it, and like, we agree with you, like this would not be a good property to
Right.
pursue because XYZ.
I watched one of those movies that made us. It's a documentary,
Yeah.
on Netflix, I believe. And I remember one of them. What was it? One of the ones they followed had went in and out of that stage several times over several years. What was it? Home Alone, maybe? I can't remember, but it was like in.
I watched most of the horror ones. that came
Yeah.
out.
I watched the horror ones, and then there was the Christmas ones, and then I think there was one that was just kind of like popular movies,
Yep.
like iconic movies. But one of them went in and out of that phase where it was on a shelf, and it would be on a shelf for 5 years, and then it would come off, and it would go to someone like what either got paid or didn't get paid, that like you, that would read it, and then it would go back onto a shelf. Basically, this isn't worthy. And it stumbled across the right person, and it's on and off the shelf thing that it finally got made. It was kind of an interesting story. Okay, so out of all the ones you read, did you how many do you think did you give like a good rating on?
I couldn't tell you, but I could say that the issue also comes down to like I may really like the film, but it may not be for a general audience, or like.
Were you able to tell the difference?
Yeah, but there would be times where like I would be like, I want to see this, so I'll greenlight it, but I'll say that in the comments, like, this may not be for everyone, but I think this is a good, interesting idea. And I mean, you would get all different types of things. So you would get like fully finished movies, or maybe the start of a pilot,
Okay.
PowerPoints about the script, or just the script itself. So it was all different kinds of formats for what you would receive.
Would you ever get like storyboarded like pictures or anything like that?
You would get like a lookbook.
A lookbook?
Sometimes, yeah.
Okay.
If like they want to like pick up at a whole show.
Interesting. That is a very fascinating. I've never met anyone that did something like that, and I don't think it's ever, other than the one time I've seen it in that documentary. In this moment, I've never really knew that existed, that even was like a requirement. Like to me, it's almost like you write this script and either it's greenlit or they send you home and say, okay, we don't want what you're selling, go home.
The craziest thing though is that it's given to people like me or any other type of intern. You're like the first line who sees it, which is what's insane.
Yeah.
But I mean, like at Propagate, or I probably shouldn't be naming, like, you know.
I can take that out if we need to.
Okay. I mean, at some of the companies, like a whole group will read it. So it's not just you. You're giving your input to a wider group of people. But just, yeah.
Okay. All right. So how long did you do that for?
I did it from August to December.
And that's in what year? That was 2020?
That was last year.
Oh, last year, 2021?
Yep.
And where were you living when you did that?
I did that remotely in Burbank.
Burbank, okay. So after that was done, what did you do? Did you have a plan?
Yeah, it's just kind of difficult with having not been paid.
Oh, yeah, it's very difficult when you're not paid.
About to enter the workforce.
Yeah.
And then you're expected to make it in California at the prices that it's at. Right. So I came back home. And I started working with Jeff over at Red Cord Productions. You actually,
confession time, I think you reached out to us early on, right?
I had.
And as you will get to, life is crazy around here, and I think we kind of like saw it but then forgot about it and never reached back out to you. Bad Broadway. It's probably Broadway's fault, but I'm going to blame
that may or may not have happened.
I'm going to blame Leah on that one.
Sounds good.
So you've been working with Jeff, and then we had you come out to Steak Wars, and you beyond impressed us. And so if y'all were at Steak Wars and you saw someone running around with the camera with us, that's Zachary. You now know who he is. But because you impressed us, and this is what I'm excited to say, is we kind of brought you on temporarily to be a DeadCat.
Yes.
You seem so excited about that.
I'm actually very excited about it.
Are you enjoying it?
Yes.
So you and Kylie both are kind of alike, that I can't read y'all as well as I can read some other people. So I feel like I want to know, are they having fun? Or are they excited? Y'all both work really hard, which is great because that's sometimes really hard to find. But I'm a type of person that loves to have fun, so I want everyone around me to have fun. That's probably why I crack so many jokes. And I want to know, like, are they having fun? Are they enjoying life? Kylie's here, and that's why I keep looking at her.
I just tend to be very quiet.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
Especially like starting out, like, I don't know, like, I'm more reserved.
So it took Kylie, 7-8 weeks to crack a joke? Yeah. And I literally, like, stopped. She said something, and it was very funny, and I don't remember what it was. But I really stopped in my tracks and be like, okay, now we're warming up. Like, she can make funnies. So now she does them all the time.
I mean, I think the podcast is really speeding that up.
Right?
Yeah.
So now you're going to be able to crack jokes.
Maybe a few.
Do you crack jokes?
You know.
So
people don't necessarily like my humor.
Okay, we can talk about this. I feel like I'm the type of person that, like, if I walk into a room and only like almost nobody knows me, I feel like if I crack a joke right away, because I'm a very sarcastic joke type of person, I feel like it's off-putting because they're like, is he serious? Because I'll do stuff like where like you say something and I'll say the opposite just to kind of like nag on you. But if I do that and the person doesn't know me, they're like, man, he's kind of rude. I don't know if I want to be with this guy. But what kind of humor do you think you have?
I do that a little.
Okay, really?
Well, like, I like to say, like, if someone tells me to do something, I'll say no.
Yes!
But
bring it! That's my kind of humor. We also found out last week that you're a Star Wars fan.
Yes, I am.
Which is awesome because I know another guy that's a Star Wars fan.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't tattoo him on my arm or anything, but... and then, wait a minute, there was another interesting... Marvel, we were talking about Marvel. Was that today?
Yesterday.
Yesterday. I see that all runs in together. I don't So we have a lot in common. We joke alike. We're both Star Wars fans. We're both Marvel fans. There's a lot of interest there. We both love, like, would you say this is your passion? Like what we do here, like the kind of work that we do?
Yes and no.
Okay, explain that.
I've learned a lot that while I want to do things that are like fiction-based or a story or telling something that has meaning, I think that non-fiction things like this have just as much, like I was saying earlier, like they have just as much a place.
Yeah.
Even if it may not seem as exciting or as important, it's still a necessary thing to do.
And that's more kind of your wheelhouse.
Yeah, because I feel like you get more, well, one, it's hard to do work that you don't find interesting. So I always like to try and find something that's interesting in it. But like something like Steak Wars was really fun because it's like a community event. You're getting photos of people within the community, and yeah, it's just a lot of fun too to like practice photography and do things like that. So like,
so if you had a dream job right now, if you're like, I want to go do this, what would that be?
Well, I'm looking for jobs in LA.
But that's vast.
I guess that's the now. The dream job, I mean, I'm kind of doing things just to see what sticks. So like, I'm learning editing, I'm learning Photoshop, I like film photography, I want to make a photo book. Doing photography at concerts or shooting.
We're going to do After Effects, remember?
Yeah, we do need to do that tomorrow.
Yes.
Doing live videography for concerts. So like,
I'm
really excited for doing things like that in the future maybe. Just whatever I can get my hands on at the moment.
Awesome. And that's something I love about you is that ever since I've known you, you've been eager to learn anything, everything in the field. Whether it's just you want to practice it and see if it's something that you like, or if it's something you've already done and you know how to do, you're still eager to do it because you're going to learn from whatever it is.
Yeah. Well, something that I've heard a lot when speaking to other people, like be it in the film industry or just here in Paris, is a lot of people started older than the age I am now. So knowing that information and hearing how people wish they had done things differently or things of that nature, I think I'm really taking that to heart because you hear a lot of people say like, I got into it at this age and I wish I had done this. And
that's my story.
Yeah,
I didn't get into it, so I didn't have the resources or the capability of even practicing this when I was your age or younger.
It's also just a very different state that we're in where like I grew up with like I had a Facebook at age 10.
Yeah.
Like you're used to YouTube being like a part of your life or filming and like just very different.
A, that wasn't around 25 years ago. B, like even our yearbook, we had one camera in yearbook and like one or two people got to touch the camera. I was never that one or two person. So
was it film at that time?
And it wasn't film. It was
so it was digital?
No, you're right. It was film.
So it'd be film. You'd have to develop it, scan it, darkroom, all of that.
Yeah, and
that's a lot of a knowledge curve.
Right. So I never got that opportunity. Yeah. And I actually didn't even really get the opportunity till I was mid-20s. And that was very limited. I didn't start my career in this until like late 20s, maybe even early 30s. Probably early 30s, to be honest. Yeah. When I was able to like have a camera. It was a Rebel T1i. I still have it sitting at home on a shelf. And I let my kids play with it. They wouldn't use it to do their stuff with it, but they learned things on it. So anyone starting 22, right?
Yeah.
So anyone in your age frame had a Facebook, had a phone that had a better camera than my T1i on it.
Yeah, and so I was thinking of something you've heard about, like the 10,000 hour rule, or I think that's what it is. Like,
yeah.
Well, so like for people my age, like for example, having Snapchat.
Yes.
How many photos are you taking a day? Like especially whenever like stories and all that was a big deal when it came out in like 2016. Like I think people my age and younger had the capacity to hit their 10,000 hours a lot quicker in something like photography or videography because it's just so pervasive.
So both my older children, the youngest is 3, so he don't know what he won't, but my 2 older children both want to do something in the creative field like this. My oldest wants to be a Broadway star, and he even has a tagline, Broadway on Broadway.
Perfect.
But he started his YouTube channel at 7.
I remember actually watching one of those videos.
Did you? Do you?
Yeah.
And so, and I that for me was so. That was several years ago. For me, I had just come out of a job where I was doing a lot of videography, but I didn't do anything that had my name on it. So I said, you know what? I'm gonna spend this summer, and I'm gonna make, and it's all gonna and it's gonna be shown so people know what I can do, show what I'm capable of. So we spent a whole 3 months of we'd one a day. I was watching Casey Neistat back then, and he was making one a day, and I was like, I can do this.
He's starting back up again, by the way.
I saw that.
He released a video yesterday.
I saw the announcement, but I haven't watched the whole video. And I felt like doing it made me better. And I think we've talked about this a little bit, just doing. Yeah. But back to Liam, like, I'm proud of him. Just a little bit ago, he made his first full YouTube video. He came up with the idea, he shot it, he edited it, and he posted it and come up with the whole description all on his own. There was a little bit of like, "Hey, Daddy, how do I add an emoji to my video?" And I would go show him how to do it. But the fact that he can do that at 10 years old has already put him far above the Snapchatters. You know what I mean? Like, he's, like you said, on that 10,000 hours?
Yeah, whatever that rule is.
Yeah, there's a rule, and I don't know the exact number either.
Yeah.
But I feel like he's already far advanced than most 10-year-olds are in this field. And if it is something he ends up wanting to do down the line, it's a resource that I never would have had.
Yeah, and I just think it's really important because, like, when I was in high school, I would make films, and they're so bad. Like, but you need that because that teaches you almost instantly, like, okay, well, I'm not going to do this, this, and this again. And like you said, the earlier you start, you can make those mistakes at an age. But you'll always do that.
You will always do that.
You will. You're always learning.
I watch videos that we made 6 months ago, and I'm like, what was I thinking? Why would I do it like that? That doesn't make any sense. You know, and then I fix it in the next one. But it's always, and I think that comes from learning and watching other people and seeing things done differently, and always kind of striving to do something different and better. And but don't ever feel like you're going to get out of that stage, because it don't. Yeah. At least in my experience, it doesn't. You
get less huge mistakes.
Yes. Yes, where you shoot in the wrong frame rate and it's all jittery, and you're like,
I had a really bad one. My final semester of college. It was for the radio station, and it was like a 30-minute long concert edit. And one of the songs was out of sync. And so I think I watched through the whole thing, but I guess I just missed it. Sometimes it's tricky like that if you're editing on a speaker, and it released, and I just happened to watch it through again because I really liked the music in it, saw it, and yeah, it was
just a big
bad because it's like on YouTube, like it's a reputable enough channel, and it didn't end up getting fixed because it was actually the weekend of the Austin ice storm. Yeah. So it was a big shit show. But yeah, ever since then, like I always double, triple check my edits. Watch
I've noticed that. And I've seen you watch it in this editing software, and then you'll export it and watch it again, exported.
Because of that mistake. Yeah. So all it takes is one, and then
you live and learn.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about future goals. I know what are you thinking? Because I know you've talked to me a little bit about this, but let's dive into that.
Yeah, so I have a few things. I've been working on a TikTok while I've been on the job hunt. Mm-hmm. So I've been doing like 2 to 3 posts a day about my film and cameras and all that, like we talked about. I'm working towards getting enough people who would maybe want to buy a photo book from me.
Okay.
So I'm kind of starting to take photos of Paris, and not even just Paris, but maybe like Northeast Texas. Yeah, working on that a little bit. I want to start writing more scripts. I do have this idea for this TV show about my time working as a lifeguard in Paris.
Okay.
There's a lot of material there.
Yeah. I've been there.
Well, we'll need to chat more about it. I need more stories for it. But yeah, maybe even shoot like some proof of concept type video for that. And then I'm looking to maybe head back to LA. It's all just kind of happening at the same time. Yeah. Maybe going to an agency as an assistant, because you meet a lot of contacts and you do work that it's like networking.
It's like, that's what I was fixing to say. It's all like networking or who you know or knowing the right people.
Yeah.
That's very much the way that industry works still, right?
So I might be looking to go back to Burbank, LA, like in September-ish, and then helping out here or with Jeff as much as I can. Yeah.
Well, we have thoroughly enjoyed having you here. Thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
It's been a blast. Guys, y'all can check him out. He's going to be around DeadCat a lot, so he's going to help us with our TikTok a little bit. If you want to go follow us, that'd be amazing, and see some of the stuff he does for us. And that is it. Bye, guys.
See ya.